Hey everybody, I'm Joe Ray, and welcome to the Restaurant of the Future. I think to start off, I'd like to have you guys talk briefly about what you do and how that relates to the Restaurant of the Future. Go.
Hi, I'm Eric. I own an incubator here in the city. We handle restaurants of our own. We help people get started in the industry as well. There's up-and-coming chefs in the city. We give them a space and a place to cook. We help them market, brand their stuff, lend our logistics, and we do this all over the world. Based here in Seattle, I started out about a year and a half ago in my apartment, serving dinners for 2 people at a time, 15-course tasting menus Wednesday through Saturday, and we've kind of expanded since then.
John.
Jim Collins, I'm the CEO of Kitchen United. I'm also the founder, owner, and operator of Town Kitchen and Grill. Kitchen United is a company building what are called virtual restaurants. You might have seen us in the news today. We had the good fortune to receive an investment from Google Ventures yesterday. And so we're looking forward to building between 500 and 1,000 virtual restaurant locations across the country over the course of the next 4 years.
Hi, my name is John. I'm the founder of Bear Robotics. I used to work at Google as an engineer, but somehow I started my own restaurant, and I owned it for 2 years. I learned it the hard way how difficult it is to run a restaurant. And I realized that I'm not good at cooking, neither at serving. So I decided to build my own robot to help myself. And I realized that it's the whole industry's problem. So now mission is to help the restaurant and the food industry with the robotics and AI. If you're around outside, you have seen our cute robot carrying some food samples. That's our robot Penny.
Before I forget, we're going to be taking questions at the end via the Slido app. So if you have any questions, you can start sending them in now. And before we jump into the future, I wanted to ask you guys, how is technology changing what you're doing right now? What's working, what's not working, and what's helping in a way that wasn't possible 5 years ago? Eric, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I use a ticketing system, so it allows me to scale out dinners and labor and food of every experience we have. I mean, we have more than 40 experiences that we're selling right now. They're all different, ranging from, burger pop-ups all the way to 20-course tasting menus, some stuff that's free all the way to a few $100s per person. So gauging the market of what's happening here in Seattle and how people are able to find us, that's a good tool. I don't have to hire somebody. It can be 24 hours a day where somebody's doing that. In addition, within our equipment in the space, we have a lot of things that allow us to be really super efficient, and I can not have somebody staring at a wall going, when's this thing going to be ready, or is it boiling yet? We have things that we program that can do that for us, so we don't have to risk somebody wasting their time with guessing.
What's working, I would say POS in the cloud is working. Self-ordering tablets, even with enabling technologies like facial recognition and stuff like that, just to make the consumer experience more seamless and smooth in the front of house. Back of house environments like predictive KDS, stuff like that, I think is also working.
What's predictive KDS?
Predictive KDS is an environment that effectively sort of figures out what the fire time for, if you get an order on a table that has a salad, a pizza, a steak, and something else, it's going to fire each line at the exact right time so that all that food arrives in the window hot, ready to go out to the table.
That's great.
It is. It's pretty cool. That's sort of big data applied to restaurant kitchens. That stuff's all working. What's not working? Disparate ordering sources. If you sort of think of the, delivery marketplaces and the way they interface with restaurants, and, you walk into a restaurant, you see 14 tablets on the expo stand with, the poor expo standing there pulling his hair out, because he's trying to keep up with all the orders coming in from all over the place. All of those kinds of things are very disruptive in the restaurant environment, and that's, those are things that need to change.
Wow. And you mentioned facial recognition. Yep. Can you say what you're using that for?
Yeah, so facial recognition is a great way. If you think about it, consumer walks into a restaurant where they've been before. They walk up to a tablet, and the tablet says, hi, Jim, welcome back. Do you want to order what you had last time? They know that consumers, on average, like 75% of the time in a fast casual or QSR restaurant are going to order the same thing, most of the time when they come in. And so when the tablet, greets you like that and all you have to do is say yes and you've placed your order, that's a pretty fast ordering experience.
But it recognizes your face. So
Yeah.
I walk in next to the host stand and it knows, or you're ordering by a tablet?
You literally just, there's the host, there's actually not traditional host or order taker stands in restaurants like this. There's usually consumer helpers who will sort of guide you, if it's your first time, guide you through the tablet experience. And then it's all opt-in. So if the first time you get there you say, no, don't memorize my face, the system doesn't store your face, and the next time you come back it won't recognize you. If you say, yes, please memorize my face, it's surprising how well it works. I know, kind of freaky,
That's
huh?
really weird.
Yeah, I'll admit the first time I actually walked back into one of the restaurants where we were employing this technology, I was a little surprised by how well it worked, because I was probably 6 feet away from the tablet, and it saw me and basically said, hi Jim, you want to order the same thing you did last time? And I said,
It might confuse you and me, though.
yeah, it might, if you had your head down, it might.
John?
Yeah, I'm coming from this tech side and started to have some hands-on experience on the restaurant. I can summarize, there are a lot of technology out there, but not many succeed in the restaurant area. And I was surprised how low-tech this whole industry is running. And I think the reason is that the technologies needs high IQ, whereas the restaurant needs high EQ. So if you talk high EQ versus high IQ, they speak different language.
Can you break that down a little bit?
So, like the restaurant, you care more about the experience. How do you make it as a number? Like, how do you formulate that? It's very difficult. And the whole experience about the food and taste, and people are enjoying it and leaving, it's very difficult to articulate it. And that's what the restaurant operators are thinking about. But like the technology is about efficiency, how to improve it, how to make it easier. But now, we cannot just automate the whole restaurant like factory, unless it's like a ghost kitchen, right? But then you suggest a product that completely eliminates the human touch, then the restaurant operator might be concerned, like, oh, I love cooking, and you're saying the robot is cooking for me? Then what's the meaning of cooking? And they're like so confused, right? I think we'll have time to talk about robots later, but yeah, if you keep asking, I'll keep talking about the robots. But overall, I think the new challenge, new solution to the restaurant industry is AI and robotics, and I think it's going to create a new type of tech product. But hopefully, those products out there can understand the restaurant market better and fulfill these people with high EQ. So I think that's going to be the trend.
Okay. Now let's jump into the future. The title of our panel is Restaurants 2030. What are the changes? Honestly, I don't care if it's 2030 or not, but like, what are the changes we're going to see in the next 5, 10, 15 years, according to you? And Jim, why don't you start?
Yeah, I think the biggest change that's happening right now is what's going to drive change towards 2030 is already happening, and that's we really live in an we generation. I want what I want when I want it, right? And you can even add where I want it to that. And so you see Domino's saying, we just added 150,000 delivery locations, and I'm like, why didn't you just add 50 billion and deliver to people wherever the heck they are, And so I think what's really happening is that people are deciding that if they're going to go visit a restaurant dining room, they're doing that because they want to hang out with their friends, not necessarily because they want to eat, right? They can eat anywhere, and they can eat good restaurant food anywhere, and that's going to get more and more prevalent. If you travel through, we were talking about our visits to Southeast Asia and Asia this year. If you travel through that part of the world right now, and even parts of Europe, as much as 60% of what is prepared in restaurants is actually consumed off-premise already in those markets. That's actually going to happen here, and the changes that will make in terms of restaurants, restaurant dining rooms, how restaurants get built in the future. All of those kinds of things are very important. The other big changes we're going to see are changes driven by things like the continued margin pressure created by increases in minimum wage. And that's going to be a focus on automation, such as robotics, such as the kinds of things I'm talking about, like intelligent POS, et cetera. And it's also going to drive a consolidation in how restaurant labor works, such that I don't believe in restaurants of the future you're going to see cooks doing, long, prep periods in the afternoon, chopping potatoes and, all that kind of stuff. I think all that product is going to come in having been robotically chopped by the food produce supplier on a same-day basis and delivered to the restaurant later in the afternoon. We're actually already doing some of that in my own restaurant. And by taking advantage of some of those technologies, I've achieved an almost 25% labor savings in my kitchen. So restaurateurs come to me and they say, how are you, dealing with the increase in minimum wage? And the way you deal with the increase in minimum wage is not to shout about the increase in minimum wage, it's to figure out how to use labor more wisely.
Eric, what do you think about all that?
I think I'm in a different spot, frankly. I want to find things that help me become more efficient in the kitchen. It doesn't necessarily mean taking things away from my cooks, because they're my most valuable asset. I do think the experience is the number one thing that is most important in a restaurant. When people buy tickets, they buy to come see me. They buy to come see Otto and what we're doing. We do things very differently, so they're coming to see the food we do. They're not just coming to hang out. They're part of the experience. We make them feel special.
So for you, in the next, between now and 2030, where maybe either use your restaurant as an example or generalize, but say where you think you would like to see it go.
Absolutely. I mean, there's menial tasks on a daily basis that I don't necessarily want to do. Taking out the trash, putting produce away, carrying a 50-pound bag of potatoes up and down, whatever. I mean, I'm getting older, so it kind of hurts now. If somebody wants to build me a little exoskeleton for 10 minutes and I can feel like a superhero and not have any stress on my body while I do that, great. If I can have another 19, 20-year-old kid that's on the same plan and he doesn't feel it when he's 36, it's kitchen time in 16 years is a long time.
That's brutal.
So when you're looking at stuff like that, I mean, it's not, I free up our time. We write menus. I have a 20-course tasting menu we do on Saturday nights in different locations around Seattle and anywhere else that we'll go. And the people are coming there for that experience, and they're paying a lot of money for that, And so we want to be able to deliver, make them feel special, acknowledged, and make it like a one-off thing every time. I change the menu every single time for that. I ask them what they want, how they want it, and we go from there. The knife cutting and coming things off. Cisco does a good job at like giving you prepackaged carrots and all these things, but I have a higher skill set than the thing that's going to cut the machine or whatever. I can do really cool knife cuts that nobody else can do. And that's what people come for. They want to buy that. They buy into it, and they buy into me, and they buy into Otto, and that's cool.
Okay, so this is a two-part question, and we're going to swing over to robots. I want to ask John if what Eric is asking for there, is that something reasonable? But first, I want to ask Eric. Everybody help me hold this together in my head, all right? First, I want to ask Eric, if you could ask for one thing from guys like these, what's that one thing?
I think it just goes back to that behind-the-scenes stuff. The behind-the-scenes stuff of, timing things out with prep, sure, but off-site, no. I don't want the off-site stuff coming in. I don't want pre-cut potatoes. I don't want that kind of thing. I want to own it, and I want to see it. I want to check off on it. So if there's a way to have it happen within the restaurant that isn't taking away the guest interaction that I need to have, then that's the part.
Okay. So are there robots like this coming down the pike? He's got some very specific demands here. So.
Yeah. That's one reason I started from the front side robot. I think the back side automation, there are more needs and pain, but on the other hand, there's a lot you have to improvise. Because I'm more on a Korean cuisine, just making seafood pancake. Depends on the temperature of the kitchen and the moisture. You have to improvise the time. And I don't think the robot can do that quickly well. And it's so dynamic environment and harsher for the robot. Like you have to deal with the heat, water, and with the health department. So unless you fully automate the kitchen, it might be partially deploying some automation that work alongside the human might be quite difficult, and also like especially like the chefs wants to check everything that is done right, every step, and that's very difficult to formalize. But the front side, regardless of cuisine, you need to serve, run the food, have to, pay and or pack, and you have to deliver the food, right? But when I do the serving, the most difficult part was my legs are tired. And then if I'm tired, I cannot offer a good customer service. I'm just, at the busy time, just running with the food. I don't see any value, any human value for running food. But like, the real value of the human is on the customer support. Like, customer, make sure that people are happy dining with us in both experience and the food. Like, I don't know why people come to my restaurant at Christmas Eve, because like, oh, there's so many better places out there. And I feel like so responsible. Hey, I have to be really, really good to them so that they're make sure they're happy with us and leave happily. But like, if I'm busy with just running food, then I cannot do that. So I built this autonomous robot that can deliver the food from the kitchen to the table with just pressing the button. I taught the servers to don't go back to the kitchen. Your role is to take care of the customer. And then they got it, and they started to offer better customer service. So it was not the robot that actually made our restaurant successful. It was the improved customer service that people make it come back. And then their tip rate has gone up, our revenue has gone up because of that, and it all started by adopting the automation.
So my takeaway from this is no exoskeleton for Eric?
Well, exoskeleton, I think technically it's very challenging to make it practical. So I don't believe in it, but probably it's going to take a longer time, longer capital to make it mature.
And Jim, what do you, if you could have like a little wish list?
12 years is a long time. Eric's definitely getting the exoskeleton. So I think we all are.
Okay. What role do you guys see personalization playing in the restaurants of the future?
I mean, we do it now. I look at Instagram, I look at Facebook, I know where you ate. I write that down in notes. Anything that's available for the public, I look at when somebody makes a reservation, who they are, where they worked at.
You're fast online too, like.
Yeah, and it's on purpose. It's not to be, I'm not trying to find out anything too personal. I just want to find out how I can create something custom for you and acknowledge and say, hey, you're in Seattle for how many days? Oh, that's awesome. I just saw you were in Chicago. Where'd you eat? There's a conversation we can have. Or, hey, I know how to make that one thing at that restaurant, so I'll make it for you and surprise you that way too. There's a lot of little different bits and pieces of information that people leave out there, so it's my job to, collect all the breadcrumbs and make a meal out of it, and just make it for you.
Oh, thank you. Jim, how do you work on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my restaurant's a fine dining restaurant, and so our focus is on a high personal touch and a lot of personalization. In terms of things in our restaurant, we keep track of people's dietary preferences, allergies, what they had last time, all of those kinds of things. We feed that information to the server before the server goes to the table, so that the server knows kind of what that customer's history with the restaurant is, not in a creepy way, but just in a way that causes us to kind of already be up to speed on the restaurant. When you look at the restaurant industry, honestly, my restaurant and the kind of restaurant that we're describing here, this is like, less than 8% of the total restaurant industry fits into a fine dining category that's a high enough touch where you can actually provide that kind of service. The vast majority of restaurants are, in the fast casual realm and then in the QSR realm. And it's really in those realms where I think we're going to see a lot more very high-level automation and very high-level brains attached to personalization, et cetera, so that, when you walk into a fast food restaurant, when you walk into a fast food restaurant, it's not going to, the menu you look at on the interactive display in 12 years will not show you anything that is not on your dietary plan. It will only show you the menu items that are either can be modified to be applicable to you or already created by the kitchen to be applicable to your dietary preferences. That's going to be ubiquitous.
So gluten,
gluten
nuts,
intolerant,
whatever, it just won't even show up.
Whatever the keto of 12 years from now. How many people tell restaurants they're allergic to broccoli, but they're really not? Come on, raise your hands. It's okay. We don't really get that mad. You won't have to do that in the future. The restaurant menus will be. I don't think there's going to be menus in restaurants. I think your menu is going to be on your phone.
I don't have menus.
Serious?
I never give one out.
You just start throwing food at people and.
Yeah, I haven't given one out since we started this 1.5 years ago. It cost of printing.
Huh?
Plus, it's like, after you're done, who cares, right? You're full and you're happy, and people are taking pictures anyway. Why give them a menu? We price stuff from $2 for drip coffee all the way to $200 for tasting menus. So we see a whole wide spectrum of stuff on a daily basis.
John, how do you, when I'm asking about personalization, what does that make you think of? You've got a robot that can help bring food out to the table, but what else is that? Does that make you think, okay, what is the next thing I want to do? I suppose that might be a tricky question for you to answer if you have an idea already.
Yeah, I guess the new emerging technology, the value of it is you can enable your casual dining and let the customer have a near similar experience as a fine dining, for example. Like the personalization with the facial recognition, one thing. That's only doable in a fine dining with all based on human memory and improvising based on the human interaction. But with the facial recognition kiosk, then even at the fast food, people know what kind of food you like or what kind of menu you like, then you can offer a better experience even in these fast casual or fast food restaurants. So the more you adopt technology in that direction, it's gonna make the customer experience much better.
Okay. If there are questions, I need to see them on the monitor in front of me, and if not, I'll just keep plowing on with my own. You guys want to talk about food delivery? We've got a couple minutes left. How is that changing what you do? Jim, you'd be a great person to start on this.
Yeah, it's kind of my world, both in my restaurant and what I do during the day. How many people in the last month have gotten delivery from Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, etc.? Just by show of hands. All right, that's I would say probably 70% of you. That means that the average age in this room is probably over 40. If you're a millennial, if the average age in this room was under 40, then the room, at least 95% of the people in the room would have raised their hand. I think that's the big difference that we're seeing, is just a big generational shift in terms of how people want to eat. My wife, when we first had our kids, she felt guilty if she didn't make dinner every night. She actually felt peer pressure that that was part of her role. I was like, honey, that is not my expectation, but that's just how she felt. People no longer feel that way. People who are building homes, right? You want a future indicator? Major home builders across the country for the first time in 30 years are looking at building smaller kitchens in homes, right? That's a leading indicator. Why are they doing that? Because people don't want to waste space in their homes with big kitchens they're not going to use. They would rather have gaming rooms and all the other things that fit their generation. Delivery is here. It's radically changing the restaurant landscape. No one knows who's going to win the war between Amazon, Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, and the recently $256 million funded Postmates. Nobody knows who's going to win that war. It's all up for grabs. It's the Wild West. And if you're a restaurant owner operator, anybody in this room restaurant owner operator? Yeah, a few people are timidly raising their hand. Please don't call on me. Yeah. Do you guys do delivery? Just nod. Yes. No. No. Yes. It's funny if you don't, you will, because what happens is the delivery services just find your menu, put it on their line on their website, and they send their driver into your restaurant. You guys are nodding at me. Yeah. Right. And it's a pain, right? Yeah, it's a pain. Change is painful. And we are in that painful sort of nascent stage of the change being created by delivery in the marketplace today. We'll get better at it. Consumers will get better at it. You know, it's just let's all admit it's not going away.
All right, team. We're running over already. Thank you very much. Thank you.